Hello and welcome to the CX Files podcast for 7th September 2023. My name is Mark Hillary and I'm in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
And I'm Peter Ryan. This week I am in the Philippines. Mark, good to see you and good to have the CX Files back online after a break over the August period.
Yeah, and it was particularly quiet this year, I think. I
Yeah.
really didn't see a lot of activity, online. Even LinkedIn felt quiet. So I think it was a good idea to sort of take a break. I know we've never done it before, but it certainly felt like it was a quiet summer.
Yeah, it was a very quiet summer. I can honestly tell you that in my entire career, I don't remember an August that was as quiet as this one. And I think it's good. I think people probably needed to take a break. I think people were taking advantage of the chance to travel without sanitary restrictions for the first time in at least 2 years. And really, I'm finding that people are coming back. We're just right after Labor Day in North America, but people seem very refreshed. They seem ready to finish the year off with some vigor and a bang. And it's great to be able to communicate via this podcast platform with them.
Well, absolutely. And, we're just kind of coasting into the final quarter, and that's always busy for a lot of people. And everybody's always going to be planning for the budget in the year ahead as well.
Yeah.
So, it's always an interesting time. Plus, we've got the countdown to when we see the first Christmas decorations as well.
Well, I can tell you in terms of Christmas decorations, I fully anticipate that they'll be up and out and the Christmas music will be going the day after Halloween in Canada. That's the way it seems to go this year. Although, you never know, it might even be after Canadian Thanksgiving, which is the first weekend of October. The way it's going right now, it's how can we commercialize the holiday season as much as we possibly can and drive our employees as crazy as we possibly can with decorations and Christmas carols.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Black Friday has turned into Q4 is entirely a holiday season for buying more stuff.
Yeah, well, I tell you, and my credit card has never been in such pain in its life. But we're here today to kick off the return of the CX Files, this September return, with an absolutely incredible interview that I conducted with Cheryl Paarwater, who is the founder and the CEO of Call Lab. Now, Mark, as you know, Cheryl is based in Cape Town. And our listeners will recall that over the course of a period of about a week or so, earlier on in the summer, there was a big issue with a taxi strike. Now, let's be very clear. Taxis in the Cape Town area are not what we would consider to be cabs, say, in the UK or in North America. We're talking about what are minibuses that are controlled by a number of different organizations that were looking to try and flex their muscles and their power as it came to remuneration and the amount of money that was being paid. Now, these are essential elements of transport for a large number of agents in the CX industry around the Cape Town area. So this taxi strike had the potential to paralyze customer experience delivery for a lot of different organizations. And what was exciting with this interview was Cheryl explained to us the context of the taxi strike. She explained a little bit the context about how Call Lab was able to address and deal with it from a business continuity standpoint. And we were able, I think, to really tease out the reasons why, in face of a very serious or what could have been a very serious disruption, a proactive BPO organization was able to come out ahead and make sure that there is limited to no disruption for the end users.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember, as we were sort of following this on the news, starting to think, is this actually going to affect people's impression of what's going on down there? And then I saw Keith Gate, a friend of ours, on LinkedIn, and he was actually flying out there for a 2-week trip, going out to meet some different BPO companies, actually at the same time as all this trouble was going on. And he was asking on LinkedIn, is it safe to be going there right now? I know eventually he went on the trip, so he decided to go ahead. And from his photos, it certainly seemed to be all okay. But just to see that people were asking that question, can I even go and do some site visits? Makes you certainly think that questions are being asked in the industry.
Well, they are being asked in the industry, and let's be perfectly honest, South Africa has faced a fair number of challenges at the macro level over the course of the past several months to a year. The taxi strike was just the most recent. Now, let's be also very honest. There's a huge amount of value that's being derived from South Africa from a CX perspective for end users in the United Kingdom, in the ANZ region, more and more in North America. And I think what Cheryl was able to do was to bring a dose of reality to the discussion. Certainly not by any means sugarcoating or undermining what was going on with regards to the disruption the taxi strike brought about, but at the same time was giving some clear and some very obvious elements about how outsourcers and also enterprise operators with the right business continuity programs in place were able to make sure that they were able to navigate this challenge and get out the other end relatively unscathed. Well, it just goes to show that what you see in the news and what you actually find on the ground can be very different. We all know that with the news cycle these days, when it bleeds, it leads. And this is having an impact in terms of site selection and the different countries and destinations that many operators and their clients think about going to. But, we have talked a lot, and it would be great to hear Cheryl's point of view. So why don't we go right to my discussion with Cheryl Paarwater, the founder and the CEO of CallLab. The CX Files is really excited to welcome back a longtime friend who is doing some amazing work. Joining us from Cape Town, we have Cheryl Paarwater, and Cheryl, by the way, I'm sorry, I can never give the Afrikaans pronunciation of your last name. That's the best I'm going to be able to do today.
I can't get enough of how you say it. It's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
No, it's me who thanks you, and I know Mark conveys his gratitude as well for taking some time to catch up with us. Now, before we get into our topic at hand today, I just want to make a comment that you're becoming a bit of a podcast starlet. Most recently, you were on Rod's Pod, and an amazing appearance on that podcast it was. We've talked to you in the past a little bit about yourself, your journey in the industry, how you founded CallLab, and it's really some fascinating stuff. So I'd encourage anybody who hasn't heard that edition of Rod Jones's podcast with your interview to definitely download that and give it a listen as soon as they possibly can. But we're here to talk a little bit more today about a contemporary issue, something that popped up in the Cape Town area not long ago that got quite a lot of coverage internationally. It certainly did here in Canada, and by all accounts, as well as in the United States, Australia, New Zealand, the United Kingdom. And that was the taxi strike that occurred in the greater Cape Town area, I believe at the end of July, start of August, if my timeline is correct. So to kick things off, Cheryl, if you just wanted to talk to us a little bit about the background of that event, what occurred, and then we can talk a little bit about the elements related to the contact center industry. But I'll give you the floor to give a bit of a backgrounder on it as somebody who was literally at the coalface of what was taking place.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks for this opportunity. I should also say thank you for giving me the first opportunity to do my first podcast, which we did together last year. That was really very kind of you to think that my story was interesting enough. So thank you for that. We had an unfortunate incident, which is probably an understatement. And it started on the 3rd of August. The event was caused by a dispute between the City of Cape Town and our minibus taxi association. Now, our taxi industry in South Africa is huge. They transport the majority of our people. The majority of the team that works with me, they make use of minibuses on a daily basis, and they go everywhere. And there were a few minibuses that were impounded by the City of Cape Town because of some unlawful activities, like vehicles that were not licensed, unroadly, and those type of things. So the city then impounded these vehicles, which were within the ambit of the law. They were acting within the National Land Transport Act, but the Taxi Association had a different take on the act. And this led to them deciding that they were going to down tools on the 3rd of August, the afternoon of the 3rd of August. And that meant that our transport industry came to a complete grinding halt, because they then also felt if they can't operate, then the other public transport services like our buses and trains should also not operate. This was naturally, it came as a shock because there was no warning. We just got the messages via Twitter, and the guys told us, guys, there's a problem. And we immediately said to the teams that could make it home, just go home as quickly as possible. And they then proceeded to go home with the equipment. And then the others that make use of public transport, they remained in the office until we were able to get them home safely. The strike continued for a whole week. In that period, right in the beginning, there was some sporadic acts of violence. There were unfortunately 5 people that also lost their lives in that week, and that is why it's a really difficult conversation for me, because I don't want to trivialize what happened. It was really sad, and it's something that unfortunately, when you have and this is the crazy thing about living in a democracy, is that you will have from time to time people that feel that they want to express, and they are allowed to express their discontent with whatever affects their lives. It's just the manner in which this one happened that left a really bad taste.
Okay, now, Cheryl, let me ask you, as somebody who is running a rapidly growing customer experience management outsourcing operation, when you got wind that this was starting, when you got wind that, as you put it, tools were being downed, what was your first reaction as a CEO?
The safety of our teams, because they were making use of the public transport to get them home. That was the first thing that crossed my mind, was how were we going to get the guys home safely? Luckily, we've got a transport provider that was very quick to get a whole bunch of cars instead of his minibuses to transport the teams, and we made sure that. And then we also have, the guys from KPPO, and the guys from BPO. So all of those lines of communications were completely open, and the WhatsApp groups were going with information, and between the operators, we were all sharing information as to how best to navigate the situation. And then BPO and KPPO, that's headed up by Clayton Williams. I mean, he's got the most amazing relationships with the officials at the City of Cape Town. So he had breaking news all the time for us. So we were kept up to date minute by minute as to what was happening. So there was no lack of communication. We knew where we were and what was going to transpire, or how it was going to transpire, and how we had to act. And then there was a lot of information sharing between the operators, which is I think something that we've perfected in South Africa. Sorry to my friends in other geos, but we really share information. I think it's because we've got this common goal, to make an impact. So when things don't go quite the way that they should go, we have a tendency of just banding together, and the competition goes out by the window, and then we just all in this together type of a thing. We even had a meeting that was set up by KPPO with the officials from the City of Cape Town, officials from the Western Cape government, and we could ask them questions on this the Zoom call that we had about the negotiations. They gave us insider information as to how things were going, because there was a lot of speculation and false news going around. The media had one story, and it was really difficult to understand what the actual facts were. So we had these regular sessions where we just got like a blow by blow account of what was happening with the negotiations, because while all of this drama was unfolding, the City of Cape Town, the Western Cape government, and the Taxi Association were in talks continuously. Those guys were, and ladies, they were working non-stop that whole week to get to a place where everybody could agree on what was the best way forward. I don't know if this is something that is common in Canada and in other areas of the world, but our leaders, the City of Cape Town, Western Cape government, the Taxi Association, they all attended an interfaith prayer service. I went and it was like, it's such a cool thing to see how these guys can put these things aside, and can we just, because at the end of the day, the safety of the people is paramount. So those type of things I feel it's hugely important, because things go wrong, whether it's natural disasters or, in this case, I feel like a bit of an own goal that we scored, but things go wrong. And when there's these type of disruptions, it's really how do we work through it, and how do we get to a place where we can resolve and come to an agreement on what is the best way forward. And I feel like in a way with everything that we've been through as a country, we have a way of talking through these things. So my message to our team was, this too shall pass, because I knew we were going to get there. I couldn't exactly pinpoint when, but I knew that we were going to get through it.
Okay, now this is really interesting, because you're touching on an angle that I think is so important, and something that became very prevalent in the minds of the BPOs and their clients, I would say probably around March of 2020, when the whole pandemic thing started off, and that is business continuity. You touched on the fact that as an industry, that South Africa's ecosystem around Cape Town was ready to share information, that they were ready to be coordinated by industry bodies, that there was communication amongst the bodies in terms of what was going on, what people need to be taking into consideration, which is wonderful. I'd love to drill down a little bit into Call Lab and to talk a little bit about what plans you had in place and how you were able to implement those business continuity plans as it related to making sure that the end users of your clients were going to have minimal to no impact once this taxi strike disruption began occurring.
Yeah. So, I think that all of us have now come to accept, even as bad as COVID was, there was positives that came out of it. And our BCP strategies in our business, in this country, in this industry, it's really deep and it's really strong. So it was almost like, seamless feels like such a cliche, but it was very easy for us to say, okay, work from home kicks in. Those that can work from home, you're going home, here's your equipment, here's your router. Yes, we've got a problem in South Africa with our power utility struggling from time to time to keep up with our consumption. So we've got UPSs that goes with the routers. So that is sorted. And we could kick that into gear quite quickly. And when you think of how long it would have taken before March 2020, that project plan would have been yay high to get a work from home strategy in place, but it was really quick for us to do that. And the how do I know, the litmus test for whether we were okay throughout this crazy time is on the 8th of August, I had a client meeting and it didn't come up once. In the meeting, it was our normal status update on how things are, where we are with SLAs. The word strike did not even come up in the call because the client was not impacted at all. So I felt like that was, yes, we are still relatively small. We're like 150 seater. But I know that if we're able to have those type of processes in place, I know that our colleagues have replicated that at a larger scale, and that is why it is, the At the end of the day, the discussion isn't the fact that things go wrong from time to time. The discussion is, are you able to work your way around those disruptions? And I feel like we're ticking that box in a big way.
Cheryl, in terms of your workforce, you talked about how you communicated to them, this too shall pass, and I think that that's a really cool thing. What were you collecting from them just in terms of their sentiments? How are they feeling once this whole disruption with the taxi strike started?
So in the evening, I've got a video I can share with you after this, just so that you can have some context. So while we were waiting for our transport company to arrange the cars that they needed to get the guys back home, these guys were sitting playing games. They were playing 30 seconds and they were playing Jenga. They were off shift and they were just waiting, and we had lots of pizza, and as long as the pizza was flowing, everybody was happy. So it's, again, I don't want to sound flippant about it, but we have been through a lot in this country. So, there is it's in our DNA to get on with things. What is the other option? So it is just, let's just do what we need to do. The priority was safety. The other top priority was to make sure that we had continuity, that there was an impact on the client. When we ticked all of those boxes, which was early on, the guys were having, you will hear in the video, I said, you guys don't look stressed about the situation, because they didn't look stressed about the situation. So in our situation, we were able to, just get all of the processes kicked into place. We were confident in the processes. We had the equipment and everything in stock. It's not as if it just becomes part of any business, whether it is you're living in a country that has typhoons, whether you're in a country that has floods, whether you're a country that has political unrest or some kind of civil situation. You need to make sure that you have those processes in place and that you can just, flip the switch as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and you really actually, I think, anticipated my next question. Obviously, as you say, we were through the pandemic, and now you've been through the taxi strike. So when it comes to BCP, business continuity, it strikes me that Call Lab is truly an authority and is truly a great example about how to manage crisis situations to make sure that customer management is not disrupted. Thinking about the fact that, as you say, it doesn't matter where you are, and you and I were chatting about this before we hit the record button, there's disruptions that can happen anywhere, whether it's a climate situation, a cybersecurity situation, it could be public or civil unrest. Thinking broadly about some of the people that you've met in the industry from around the world, whether it's at CX outsourcers or on investor meetings, what would you say would be the advice you'd give other CX operators, no matter where they are, about how they need to manage these types of situations?
First of all, just breathe. I think that, it's so easy. It's so easy for us to get overwhelmed when these things happen. And as if we understand that this is part and parcel of the business world, that, things from time to time don't go right. I remind my team very often that, if it was easy, everybody would do it. It's not supposed to be easy. And that's the thing that differentiates you, is when you go through these difficult things and you are able to, keep the lights on, that becomes something which is not a unique differentiator, but it's something that creates confidence within your clients. And that is the message that they spread when they talk to other people as well. So, so it's part and parcel of doing business is to be prepared for when things go wrong.
Super duper. Well, Cheryl, it is always a pleasure catching up with you on the CX Files, and we're looking forward to catching up live one of these days, no matter where that might be in this big, wide CX world that we've got. But I think you brought to the table some true learnings and quite frankly, some common sense about breathe, about think about what needs to be done, have a plan, be prepared to execute on the plan. And from my perspective, very sage advice that will apply to operators no matter where they are, no matter how large their operations might be, or perhaps for those that are just starting out.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks for listening to the CX Files podcast. We really appreciate your feedback and suggestions. You can reach myself, Mark Hillary, or Peter Ryan via LinkedIn. Please also leave a rating or review on your favourite podcast provider, as that helps more people to find us. As always, we'd like to thank Chris Haig at Traction Media for the CX Files graphics. See you next week.